precisely 1:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Sharifa Tahir. Headlines. A discussion will be held with the President on obtaining fuel for electricity. The CEB will seek advice from the Public Utilities Commission before imposing power cuts. There is a possibility of lodging complaints on fuel standard. Number of COVID-infected children have increased. Tourist arrivals exceed 59,000 during the first 22 days of the year. And on news overseas, U.S. orders families of embassy staff in Ukraine to leave. Local news in detail. Acting General Manager of the Lanka Electricity Board, Dr. Susantha Pereira, says that a discussion will be held with the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa on obtaining fuel for electricity today as well. A lengthy discussion will also be held with Petroleum Corporation to obtain burn oil for power plants in future. No power cuts will be imposed without informing the people. Now, the hydropower plants have reached their maximum level due to dwindling water levels. The CEB will seek advice from the Public Utilities Commission before imposing power cuts. Energy Minister Udaya Gammanpilla says with 100% assurance that petrol and diesel sold by them were not substandard. He said that some groups are making false information on fuel. Minister Gammanpilla told the media that the fuel imported by the CPC and IOC are subject to laboratory tests for quality at the port of Colombo before pumping them to the storage tanks at the storage terminals before pumping to the bowsers. Bowsers are sealed before leaving the storage facility. Responding to a journalist at the news briefing, he said there was a suspicion among motorists that the diesel is mixed with kerosene and 92 petrol with 95. Minister Gammanpilla said the CPC is yet to receive any complaint on this issue. The CPC has conducted raids on a number of filling stations in the recent past and has taken strict measures against the culprits, including cancellation of the permit. However, it is up to motorists to lodge a formal complaint against any filling stations if motorists have any doubts about the quality of fuel being pumped to his or her vehicle. The CPC would mete out maximum possible punitive measures against the filling station if and when found guilty, Minister Gammanpilla stressed. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation giving you the news. Continuing with more stories here at home, it has been reported that more than 59,000 tourists arrived in the island during the first 22 days this month. The Ministry of Tourism has pointed out that this is a large-scale development in the tourism sector. Out of this number, more than 10,000 tourists have arrived from Russia, 9,000 tourist arrivals from India, and 4,000 tourists from Ukraine have been reported. In addition, 5,200 tourists from Britain and 3,600 from Germany have also arrived in the country. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Hotel Association, M. Shanti Kumar, said that there is a growth in the tourism sector after 2 years. Former MP Ranjan Ramanayake was produced before the Supreme Court this morning for the hearing of the second contempt of court case against him. He was escorted to the court premises by prison officers in a prison bus. The case was filed against the former Deputy Minister over contempt of court charges for allegedly making a controversial statement regarding the composition of the Supreme Court judge bench, hearing the petitions filed against the President's dissolution of Parliament in 2018. In January last year, Ramanayake was convicted over another contempt of court charge and was sentenced to prison term of 4 years rigorous imprisonment. That's on local news for the moment.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Health Ministry pointed out there is a high risk, or rather there is a high increase in children being infected with COVID-19. This situation has been shown among all categories of age of children. The doctors also said that most of the cases reported, children have got infected with the virus from their family members. They requested the parents to pay more attention on their children at every time. A considerable number of COVID-infected children are receiving home treatment. It has also been reported that more than 50 children are taking medical treatment at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for the virus. Nearly 15 infected children are admitted to the hospital. Meanwhile, the COVID-infected persons at the National Hospital in Colombo have also increased. Several wards have been established in this regard.
The main news story was brought to you by Sidhale Mahatmya.
And on Watchlight, several deaths have been reported due to drowning and road accidents, which has occurred in the recent past. These deaths are preventable. The bodies of 2 students who died while bathing at Valigama Sea have been washed ashore yesterday and today. It has been emphasized that it is important to mark the dangerous places in sea or rivers. The parents should also pay more attention on their children. There is a need to educate communities on school level and national level in this regard.
Coming up, World News.
World News headlines: U.S. orders families of embassy staff in Ukraine to leave. Russia seeks pro-Moscow leadership in Ukraine. Taliban begin talks with Western officials in Oslo. We move on to World News in detail now. The U.S. has ordered the relatives of its embassy staff in Ukraine to leave amid rising tension in the region. The State Department has also given permission for non-essential staff to leave and urged U.S. citizens in Ukraine to consider departing. In a statement, it said there were reports that Russia is planning significant military action against Ukraine. Russia has denied claims that it is planning to invade Ukraine. The State Department also warned people not to travel to Ukraine and Russia due to the ongoing tension and potential of harassment against U.S. citizens. Britain's foreign ministry says Russia is plotting to overthrow the administration of pro-Western Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and replace him with a pro-Moscow leader. Russia denies the accusation. The British Foreign Office claims former Ukrainian Parliament member Yevhen Murayev is the most likely candidate. The office also says the Russian intelligence services maintain links with many former Ukrainian politicians. It also named 4 other possible candidates, including former Prime Minister Mykola Azarov. Finally, on World News, members of the Taliban are meeting with Western officials in Norway for the first talks in Europe since the group took control of Afghanistan. The talks, set to last 3 days, will cover human rights and the humanitarian crisis in the country. The UN says 95% of Afghans do not have enough to eat. A number of protests have taken place in Europe, with critics claiming the Taliban should not be rewarded with the meetings. Yesterday, members of the Taliban met with human rights activists, but the details of those discussions have not been revealed. That's on World News.
Development News is brought to you by Let's take coal out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
On Development News, the construction and sub-office of Dambavina Pradeshya Sabha, a library and a government office complex at Diabara Junction of the Valley Madhya Pradesh Sabha was opened recently. The government has spent 20 million rupees in this regard. Several needs of the people in the area have been fulfilled by this project.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
On sports news, Chamari Atapattu put in an all-round performance as the Sri Lanka women's cricket team beat Bangladesh women by 22 runs to qualify for the Commonwealth Games. Sri Lanka took on Bangladesh in the 10th match of the Commonwealth Games women's cricket competition qualifiers in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Atapattu, who was named player of the match and player of the series, top scored for the Lankans with 48 runs in just 28 deliveries and also picked up 3 wickets. Sri Lanka managed to post a score of 136 for 6 in their allotted 20 overs, while Bangladesh were restricted to 114 for 5.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
A businessman who is engaged in jewelry management, Handun Chanuka, says that there is a high demand for jewelries made out of coconut shells in several countries around the world. At present, he said these products will be exported to 8 countries, including America, Australia, Italy, France and England. Accordingly, they produce chains, sari pins, earrings and several other products using coconut shells.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
And on economic news, an increase of 9.37 has been shown at the Colombo stock market up to now this year. A counting of price index of all shares will be conducted on a new system from today. That's on economic news.
The weather report.
The Met Department says that mainly dry weather will continue to prevail over most parts of the island. Fairly cold weather can be expected during the early morning. There is a possibility of ground frost at some places in the Nuwara district during the early hours of the morning. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in western, central, Sabaragamu, north central and Uvu provinces and in Kurunegala, Galle and Matra districts during the morning. That's the weather update, and before we wind up, a quick look at the headlines again. A discussion will be held with President on obtaining fuel for electricity. The CEB will seek advice from the Public Utilities Commission before imposing power cuts. There is a possibility of lodging complaints on fuel standards. Number of COVID-infected children have increased. Tourist arrivals exceed 59,000 during the first 22 days of the year. Finally, on world news, US orders families of embassy staff in Ukraine to leave. And with that, we conclude the afternoon bulletin of news.